Okay, today we're going to do multiplying and dividing by integers. Now, when we multiply and divide integers, we are looking at a completely different set of rules than we looked at when we were adding and subtracting. So there is a little clue that I'm going to give you at the very end of this that's going to help you remember how to multiply and divide integers. So let's just get right to it. So multiplying and dividing integers today, the product means the answer to a multiplication question, or quotient, which is the answer to a division problem, of integers with the same sign. Same sign is positive. Okay, so they have to have the same sign. So if we have a positive times a positive, it's going to equal a positive. A positive divided by a positive is going to equal a positive. A negative times a negative is also going to equal a positive. That's different than what our addition rules are. And a negative divided by a negative is also going to equal a positive. So for some examples today, we have -2 times -3, and that's going to equal a +6. They're both the same sign. And then we're going to have 12 times 4 is also going to equal a positive, and that's a +48. A -15 divided by a -3 is going to equal a +5. 18 divided by a +3 is going to equal 6. Okay, so two negatives multiplied together, two negatives divided by each other are going to still give you positive numbers. Two positives give you a positive. That's probably the easiest one for you to remember. Now we have to figure out that if we have two negatives, the answer is not going to be a negative. That's only when we're adding. When we're multiplying or dividing, they are positives. Okay, the second part of this, the product, again, is multiplication, or the quotient, division, of integers with unlike signs. Is negative. Okay, it's going to be negative. So we would have a negative times a positive. It's going to give me a negative. These are unlike signs. It's going to give me a negative. So -2 times 7 is going to be -14. Two different signs. A positive times a negative is also going to equal a negative. So 14 is positive times -1 is going to equal -14. A negative divided by a positive is going to equal a negative. -100 divided by a +4 is going to equal -25. And a positive divided by a negative is going to also equal a negative. So 56 divided by -8 is going to equal -7. Okay, so whenever we are multiplying by unlike signs or dividing by unlike signs, your answer is always going to be a negative. So this is this little handy clue that we've been using now for a couple of years. If you make a tic-tac-toe and you put your positives going down the diagonal and fill everything else in with negative signs, And remember, this is only for multiplying and dividing. Only. Not for addition or subtraction, just for multiplication and division. So this is how it would go. A positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times a positive is a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. And if I go down, it works the same way. A positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times a positive is a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. It works whether we go horizontally or vertically. Diagonally, a positive times a positive equals a positive. So whenever you're multiplying or dividing by integers, negative and positive numbers, you can write that little chart right there on your papers, and that will help you to solve the problems.